I want to say something right up front that you probably won't like at first. It's this: you don't own anything. Not your money, not your house, not your savings. And before you click away, I know some of you feel that way, this isn't about God wanting something from you. Today, it's about God wanting something for you. Welcome back. And if what I said earlier, you go, yeah, thanks, I feel called out, I don't own anything. No, it actually applies to all of us. None of us own anything. It sounds a little weird to say, and it's also not very comforting when finances are many times already stressful. But what about this? Let me just ask you a question. Have you ever looked at your finances and thought, I'm trying, but it still feels overwhelming? And maybe you haven't been reckless. Maybe you haven't been irresponsible. I mean, sometimes we have been, but we're just tired of feeling stressed out. We're unsure of what the right thing is to do. And last week we talked about our heart and what we trust. And today we're talking about what that trust looks like in real life. And here's the reason why: because money has a way of exposing our habits and our anxiety faster than just about anything else. But here's the good news: God doesn't leave us guessing. In Proverbs, it says, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance. Not luck, not wishing, oh, I think it's gonna happen for me, not the lottery, but wisdom and planning. So today we're gonna talk about how some wise habits with money and giving you a couple tools can actually bring peace, not pressure. Welcome to church.
It's getting harder to recognize the person I was before I encountered Christ. Oh, I don't walk like I used to. could have only been the blood. Hallelujah, hallelujah. I know it was the blood, could have only been the blood, could have only been the blood.
Do you trust me? I trust you.
Trust me.
Trust me.
But you don't trust me?
Money, money, money. Who do you trust?
Welcome, everybody, to our online campus. We are so glad you joined us today. Welcome from around the world, around the country, and around the state of Arizona. And as we always say, Crossroads Recovery, guys, we love you. So excited to be a part of your lives. Tell David Bryan, our chaplain, a big hello from us today. And we're going to get at it. We're in week 2 of our series, Money Trust. And I do this series every year. We talk about finances every year. And last week, I'd love for you to go back and listen to last week's message because it really gave you the heart of why we do this. But I just want to remind you, I do this because I don't want something from you. I know a lot of times you think, oh, churches are talking about money. They want my money. We truly want something for you. And there's many reasons why Jesus wants us to talk about money, but let's just know this today. Last week was a heart issue. This week, we're going to talk about habits, some practical habits we can put into place to be wise when it comes to dealing with money. Proverbs 21:5, Solomon writes this, "The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance." Notice it doesn't say luck or wishful thinking leads to abundance. It says plans, having a plan. Now I want to show us something that's very vital when it comes to dealing with money. This is kind of a worldview, a biblical worldview that if you're a follower of Jesus, you need to understand this is a biblical worldview about money. So let's go back all the way to the beginning in the book of Genesis. Genesis chapter 1, verse 27 through 28, the very beginning of the Bible. This is what's written. So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. Then God blessed them. Isn't that cool? That the very first thing that Adam and Eve experienced from God, the very first thing they experienced, the first thing they remember, our earliest memories matter, is being blessed. He blessed them and he said, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth, and here's a very important statement, govern it, steward it, reign, again, steward over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and all the animals that scurry along the ground. Now look at the very next chapter, Genesis chapter 2 and verse 15, just one verse. The Lord God placed the man in the Garden of Eden, and this is why he placed Adam there, to tend and watch over it, to steward it. Now, in the world of theology, the 2 passages we just read are known as the, ready for it? Creation mandate. The creation mandate works this way. Everything we have has been given to us and created by God and given to us by God. Everything we have, created by God and given to us by God. Let me say it this way. You own nothing. Nothing you have is really yours. It all belongs to God. It's all from God. And if you're going to follow Jesus, you have to know and have that mindset. That's a biblical worldview mindset that God made everything. Everything we have is from him. And let's be honest, we don't like that statement. There's a reason it's a biblical mindset, not a cultural mindset, because the Bible is usually totally opposite of what the world says. Because in our cultural mindset, in our world, like everything I have is because I worked hard and I gave it everything that I had and worked my way to the top. Yeah, you worked hard with the mind that God gave you and the body he sustains and the air he lets you breathe, and on I could go. It's interesting. I've been really leaning in and helping with my dad, along with my wonderful cousin Karen and Stephen, her husband, and my brother Paul. We've all been pitching in to help Dad. He broke his hip, and there was a season there where we wondered, is Dad going to be able to walk? Will he need long-term care? And the thing that was very interesting to me was that my father has worked diligently. My mom and dad worked hard their whole life, and they saved for decades, right? They wanted to be a blessing to my brother and I. And so they saved for decades. And here's what I figured out. because of the way Arizona, because of the way the long-term care works in our state, if my dad would have needed long-term care, all he saved for decades would have been gone in just a few years. That's the truth. Yeah, you worked hard, but God gave you that body. If you weren't able to work, if you didn't have the mind to work or the physical ability to work, that money is gone. Now, let me say it another way. Our oldest 3 kids, right? They're 25, 24, 21 now. Josh, Luke, and Abby. When they were little, when they were Olivia and, Ava's age, our little ones, when they were their age, every time I had a birthday, my kids would try to get together and buy me a present. Nicole would work with them, we'd buy a present, and that was kind of cute. And here's the thing about my kids when they were little buying me presents. First of all, I knew exactly how much they spent, and I already knew what they bought me before I received it. Do you want to know why? Because they used my money. They used my credit card, my debit card, my bank account. It was already all mine. After my birthday, I was no more wealthier than I was before my birthday. Actually, I had less money than before my birthday happened because they were using my money. Do you understand that today? We can't give God anything. It already all belongs to Him. Everything we have has been created by Him and given to us by Him. With that perspective in mind, I want to get incredibly practical and share some habits with you that we need to put into practice. So today's going to be super full of wisdom and practicality. We're going to be in the Bible, but we're really going to look at some practical stuff. So here's 2 big things that I want to talk about. You need to think about real practical habits you need to think about first. First of all, we need to make sure that we are making money morally, that we're making the money in a moral way. Proverbs 10:2 says this, treasures gained by wickedness do not profit. And Proverbs 22:16 says, a person who gets ahead by oppressing the poor or by showering gifts on the rich, bribing, will end in poverty. See, understand this. It's okay to be successful. God's not against success, but not at the expense of selling our soul. We don't stab people in the back as Jesus followers. We don't oppress the poor. We don't make shady deals and fudge the numbers. We don't do that as followers of Jesus. We remember that our family is our first calling. Buying our family presents at the expense of our presence is the most foolish investment any parent will ever make. And I know that because I've done that at times in my life. She doesn't need $200 jeans. Your daughter doesn't need that. I know she tells you she does, but she doesn't. She needs you. Your son doesn't need club sports or sports car. Your son needs you. Your son needs your presence. That's what they need more than in presence. Does that make sense? Because it's kind of hard to say over and over, okay? If you own a business, don't take advantage of your employees. I have a friend of mine who recently called me. He was getting ready to sell his business, and it was a big deal, all right? A really, really big financial deal. And what impressed me about the conversation is my friend said to me, my number one goal is to make sure that not only is this a good deal for me and my family, but it's a good deal for all these employees who got me where I am today. Don't cut benefits to build your profit. Be a blessing to your employees. That's what a Jesus follower does. Here's another way that we earn money morally, make money morally. If you own rental properties, don't take advantage of your renters. Don't do it. Don't gouge them just because rent's going up and up and up. Don't take advantage of your renters. Be kind, be compassionate. Make money, there's nothing wrong with that. But exorbitant amounts of money, come on. I have a good friend who during COVID, when all the lockdowns were taking place in 2020, he owned commercial real estate, several buildings, and he had a lot of renters from those commercial real estate properties. And during COVID, he made this decision. He slashed the rent, he lowered the rent for all of his renters in their businesses so that they could thrive in a very difficult downturn in our economy. And he was able to do this because he was really wise as an investor and he didn't have a lot of debt. Matter of fact, I don't think he had any debt on his properties. But I was just so struck by his compassion and his willingness not to continue to make money during that time at a high level and to really cut and help people out during a difficult time. We need to run from anything that has a lack of integrity. Run from things that lack in integrity. Don't do it. Don't do things that lack integrity. Stop taking long lunches, cutting hours, taking advantage of your boss. That's called stealing. I know, who's having fun? Anybody right now? Here's another thing, a little nuance. Stop grumbling and complaining all the time. Be grateful for the job that you do have. There's a lot of people in this world who would give anything to have the job that you hate. A lot of people. And besides all that, you're wasting so much energy, the energy you could use to be doing better as an employee and helping the company do better and actually changing the environment in the workplace. You're becoming toxic. Here's what I say to our team all the time. Stop peeing in the pool. Okay? That's what grumbling does. You're peeing in the pool and everybody has to swim in it. And guess who else has to swim in it? You do too. You're making the culture more toxic. You're ruining the environment and you're making your company less successful. Also, don't make others look bad to make yourself look good at work. My son, Josh, his former job that he had a difficult job and there was I could go into all the details. I don't have time to cover everything, but he had a situation one day where he was working with a guy at a location and they got done. The guy says, hey, I'll clean up the inside part. You go outside and clean up the perimeter. And so my son, okay, cool, cleaned up the perimeter, got in the car. His buddy that he was working with came out, got in the truck and they were heading out. About an hour later, he got a call from the manager, from the owner of the company. And this dude was ticked. He's like, hey, the owner of that house called. The place was a disaster inside. He says, the room where you guys were working, just drywall everywhere. Things were a mess. He is ticked off. And I asked my son when he called me and told me, I said, what'd you do, Josh? What'd you do? And he goes, I apologized. And I went back and said I would take care of it. And I cleaned up the house. He could have very easily done what most of us would do, grumble, complain, blah, blah, blah. It's he told me he was going to do it, making excuses. No, he has a get it done attitude. And he went back and he took care of the job and he cleaned it up. And then his boss actually found out a while later that he had done that. And he's like, dude, you don't take responsibility for things that you weren't responsible for. He's like, yeah, I just didn't feel like throwing my friend under the bus. And here's the thing you need to know. That job didn't go very well. That job ended. But God blessed my son with an incredible job at an incredible company that's training him, working with him. He now has his own truck. He's doing great. He's continuing to learn and grow. Why? Because he has a good attitude. I love that. The second thing we need to think about, right? So make money morally. That would be a great habit. And secondly, manage money meticulously. All right? Proverbs 27:23-24 says this, know the state of your flocks and put your heart into caring for your herds. Now, I know most of us don't. We're not ranchers, okay? But it's an agricultural culture back there. Agriculture was the way of making money in those days. So why should we do this? Why did Solomon write this? Here's the reason why. Because those flocks, that money, it's not yours. It was entrusted to you by God. Growing up, I had a neighbor. His name was Don. And he hired me a lot to do different odd jobs around the house and cleaning and painting and working in the yard. And he was just a great guy and actually somewhat of a mentor in my life. One day I was cleaning up the yard, doing some raking, and his rake that he was using snapped in half. It was an old rake. Boom, I snapped it. It was so strong. Yeah, whatever, let's move on. And so I took the rake back and I didn't know what to do. So I just stuck the broken rake by the front door of his little shed out back and I went home. Had some cheese crisp and watched Andy Griffith and hung out at the house, all right? All of a sudden, an hour, if you're under 40, you have no idea who Andy Griffith is. But I went back to the house and an hour later, I hear this knock on the door. I go look at the peephole, see who it is. And sure enough, it's Don, the neighbor, and he is not happy. He's got the broken rake in his hand and I can see by his face, I'm like, oh dude, I don't want to answer the door. And he goes, Dan, I know you're in there. And I'm like, oh, I'm in so much trouble. I slowly opened the door. I go, yeah, Don, what's up? And he took the rake and he shoved it through the door and he put it against my chest and he looked me in the eyes and he said these words, this is not how you return someone else's property. It was a great lesson. It's something I've never forgotten to this day. How we treat someone else's property matters. How we take care of it. And what he was saying is, you didn't have your heart in this job. Why? Because you didn't treat my property with respect. And when it broke, if it broke, it broke. At least had the courtesy to tell me about it. Now, let me give you 2 ways we can manage money meticulously. 2 habits, if we put into place, we're going to be successful in this life financially. The first, whether you make $10 million a year or $10,000 a year, you need to have a budget plan. You have to have a plan. You have to have a budget. Planning isn't a lack of faith. Planning is wisdom. Faith says, God, I trust you to provide. God, I trust you. Even our money says, in God we trust. I trust you to provide for my needs. Planning says, God, I'm going to wisely care for what you have provided for me. I'm going to trust you. Faith says, I'm going to trust you to provide. And then wisdom says, God, I'm going to carefully take care of what you have provided for me. A budget is simply telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Your money needs a map, and that's what a budget is all about. It's having a plan. Think about this. If you want to get in shape, you have a good trainer, right? You go to a trainer, you got a good trainer. A good trainer is going to ask you to, first of all, make a list of everything you eat every day for a week. That's what a good trainer is going to do. And you're going to ask the question, you mean main meals? And the trainer's going to smile and say, no. Everything you eat, especially the snacks in between those main meals. And those snacks at 2:00 in the morning that you eat during refrigerator light, okay? All of it needs to be recorded. We're going to get a plan. We're going to build a plan, right? The problem isn't knowing the big things that you need to budget. It's all the snacking we do in between rent and utilities. It's Starbucks, it's Dutch Bros, it's DoorDash, it's donuts, and on I could go. And you're thinking, and some of you might be thinking, well, I don't make enough money to have a budget. It's just all gone. Or some of you are thinking, hey, I'm at a point right now, Dan, I make enough money. I don't really need to have a budget anymore. No. A budget always matters. A plan always matters. Why? Because every dollar you have is from God. It's not yours. Don't ever forget that. That's why we have to have a plan to manage our money meticulously. In Matthew chapter 25, Jesus tells this amazing story. It's called the parable of the talents. And I don't have time to read the whole story to you. During your quiet time this week, I want you to go back and read the story in Matthew chapter 25. So let me just give you the highlights. Jesus tells a story about a master. And in this story, the master he relates this to God, okay, who left for a trip. And when he left for the trip, he entrusted his servants. He had 3 servants, 3 employees. He entrusted all of his money to these 3 employees. He gave one employee 5 bags of silver. Another, he gave 2 bags of silver. Another one, he gave 1 bag of silver. And then he went on a long trip. When he came back, he brought all of the servants in, all these employees in, and they had to give an account for the money that he entrusted to them. The guy who had 5 bags said, hey, I got 5 more. I went out and invested. I worked hard. I got 5 more. And he goes, well done, good and faithful. The next one, 2 bags. The 2-bagger brought back the 2 bags and had 2 more. And he's like, good job. You doubled again, 100% increase. Great job. He comes to the guy with 1 bag of silver. The 1 bag guy says, I knew that you were a hard master. I knew you were tough. So I went outside and I buried it. Here's your 1 bag back. And the response was not good. So let me give you 2 huge observations, because I've read this parable many, many times, and maybe you have too. The first thing I recognized was this. We are all not entrusted with the same amount, but we're all accountable to the same level of stewardship. We know this in life. All of us have different talents and abilities, different levels of money and income. We're not all created equal when it comes to finances, but we are all equally responsible for how we steward what God has given us. No matter how little we have or how much we have, we're still equally responsible, even though we don't have an equal amount of money. The second thing that really hit me about this story is that it really bothers God when we're unfaithful with a little bit. Like if you have a whole bunch, I can understand that. Like if I gave you $5 and said, would you invest this for me? And you came back and you're like, I didn't have time. Here's your $5 back. It'd be no big deal. If I gave you 5 million and I come back and you're like, I didn't have much time. I'd be like, why did I entrust you with 5 billion? We can understand being upset with you're not being faithful with a lot. But sometimes we think when we have a little, it's just no big deal. We don't really have much. And yet, if you listen to the master's response, it is intense. Listen to what Jesus says in this story, the response to the guy with 1 bag who buried it and didn't invest it. He said this, but their master replied, you wicked and lazy servant. Oh, snap. That's intense. Why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? Like at least deposit in the bank, at least I could have gotten some interest on it. Then he ordered, take the money from this servant and give it to the one with the 10 bags of silver. Then Jesus makes this statement. To those who use well what they are given, notice that, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what the little they have will be taken away from them. Now throw this useless servant into outer darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. I had forgotten that weeping and gnashing of teeth part was attached. I've been reading the Bible for many, many years, was attached to how we steward, how we take care of what God has given us. Now, I don't have time to unpack all that. All you need to get from this is that we're not all given the same amount, all have equal responsibility to steward it well. And God gets really upset when we don't take care of what he has given us, no matter how much or how little. Imagine, just in the natural here, in the 21st century, imagine going to a financial planner and you ask the financial planner, what is your plan for my investment, your plan for my money? And they said to you, we're going to bury it. You wouldn't give them a dime. Let me say it this way. Years ago, I heard this story. There was a church in the Midwest in Ohio, and the pastor took $5 bills all the way up to $50 bills. It was 5s, 10s, 20s, 50s, and he put them in envelopes and he taped them to the bottom of the chairs in the auditorium. All the people came in. He was doing a message on stewardship. And when he got done, he says, underneath your chair, if you reach under, take that envelope out. And so people were pulling these envelopes out. There was anything from a $5 bill to a $50 bill in these envelopes. My favorite part of the story is he said, I want you to go out and I want you to invest this money. And then I want you in 2 weeks to bring back your investment to the church. It was so interesting. It was a little boy, 5th grader, $5. You know what he did? Took his $5. He went to the grocery store with his mom and dad. He bought bread, peanut butter, and jelly. He made sandwiches and he sold the sandwiches at school. And he made like 20 times what he actually had. And he brought it back to the church. Can you imagine if we lived like that little boy? Could you imagine if we were good stewards like that and took what God has given us and entrepreneurially were able to see by God's grace and strength and get the wisdom to multiply that? Can you imagine the difference that would make in the world, in the kingdom of God? See, understand this too. This principle of faithful with little has been one of the greatest blessings of my life. When I say this, I'm not trying to be extra humble. I'm not a 5-bag talent guy. I'm 2 at the most, but probably more of a 1-bag guy. My greatest strength is mercy. I have so many friends in ministry who are so much smarter than me. Their brains just work at a whole nother level. I know friends that are just incredible communicators and incredible leaders, incredible vision casters. I struggle with panic attacks. Speaking in front of people is not something that comes really naturally to me. It's a supernatural thing that I'm able to actually do what I'm doing right now. This God's grace on my life. Here's what you need to know about this farm boy from Illinois, all right? I've just been faithful with the one talent God's given me. And God has blessed me with it. I know I share with you guys my weaknesses and my struggles. Here's one of my victories in life. I've been that person who's been willing to say, God, I am going to be faithful. I'm going to use to the max everything you've given me. This mercy gift you've given me, I'm going to love people, every person that comes across my path. I'm going to serve with a whole heart. Matter of fact, even Nicole and I, when we were first married, we had this little 10,050 square foot house. 1,010,000. That would have been a mansion. It was a 1,050 square foot house. We stewarded that house well. We had all of our family, a bunch of family gatherings. My wife's side of the family were all at this little house in our backyard. We had aunts and uncles who lived in Paradise Valley in big homes with guest houses. They came to our house. We had people live. We had this little room off of our laundry room. It was like a closet. And we'd have people come and stay with us that needed a place to stay and live in that room. We stewarded it well, and God blessed us with more and more and more. That's the principle of being faithful with the little. So you need to have a plan. Now, here's the thing. Some of you are like, well, I don't know where to begin. Well, that's good, because here's what we want you to know. At Pure Heart, we have people who will sit with you and work with you and help you develop a plan. Financial Peace University is coming up, and I want to challenge you. If you're struggling in your finances, or even if you just want to make sure that you can steward well the things that God's given you, you want to go through Financial Peace University. We're going to share a story with you right now. Here's a testimony from a couple that has gone through Financial Peace University.
March 8th, 2005, I touched my last drug, which was meth, and I woke up in a hospital. I got on my knees and I prayed. I said, God, take me with you or use me in some other way. March 9th was my first sober day. Getting rid of that addiction wasn't getting rid of all addiction for me. I started doing other things. I like memorabilia. I'm a homer. I'd buy a bunch of Cardinals autograph stuff, Phoenix Suns. I like shoes, Jordans.
He left one addiction and went right to the other one, because when you're spending, at least in some of those same endorphins that you are when you're using drugs or alcohol. And so he would buy those things and get memorabilia. His office is amazing. If something ever happened to him, That was his retirement plan, and I could just sell everything off the walls. I wasn't the spender. He's taught me very well how to be the spender now, but we had about $71,000 in debt from credit cards. Those are credit cards, furniture cards, anything you can think of that we could get debt out of. When I met Danny, he already had some vision problems, had some surgeries, got him to where he was. In 2024, he had an eye surgery. It was supposed to be just a simple cataract thing, and it turned into something more.
So the cataract fell in the hole in my left eye, causing my sight to go from 20/40 to 2400. I couldn't sit there at a screen. I couldn't work and do the stuff I was used to doing and was good at. So I had to stop working and go on disability.
We came to a place of knowing that we were in crisis after his paycheck was gone. So we had to kind of sit back, evaluate our finances, where we were, where we had been, all the debt we had racked up, figure out what are we going to do next. Around that same time is when Pastor Dan started talking about financial peace. And we signed up, and I was completely ready to go. Had to drag Danny there, kicking and screaming at the beginning, but it all worked out. A couple months in, they had one of the lessons was on tithing. And we had tithed, coming to church, but weren't making that a priority. So we went home, we talked about it, and we made a decision that we were just going to tithe. And that was going to be first before we paid any bills and before we bought groceries and before we did all of those things.
We learned how to put our money to where it should go and not to frivolous spending, and how to give God's money back to him. I mean, it's all God's money. The blessings we've had because of that giving are tremendous.
From May and then June, 2 things changed for us financially with relation to insurance. We had a reduction in $300 a month from those 2 things. And so we were so excited to go back to class being like, God, you have this. You will help get us out of this mess. And then we had to build our emergency fund before we could start paying off all of that debt. Items that Danny had that weren't really necessary. A couple of things that I had, we started just posting it all on Marketplace. Sold a bunch, and we were able to build up that emergency fund. And then the next step was paying off the credit cards. We just started getting on a roll with that, and then it got exciting because then we were like, oh, we checked another one off. Now we're at a point where we have 20 credit cards paid off, and that's embarrassing to say, but at the same time, it is what it is, and I'm proud, and I'm not worried about our mortgage. I'm not worried about how are we going to eat.
They're going to get paid off. They've been, we pay little at a time, and we're learning how to spend wisely. I am learning how to spend wisely, and tithing and giving generously. It's really been a blessing.
Generosity for both of us. It's always been where we've wanted to help people. We both have huge hearts. His love language is gifts. So he's always been good at buying gifts and giving things to people and showing love. But we're doing things more where we're being generous with the people that can really benefit from it versus taking that money and buying something that is really being selfish to ourselves. So we're really leaning in more with how can we be a service to other people?
I think that's where we get our most joy.
It's brought us closer to each other, to God, to all kinds of things. And all of the other things in our life have just been changing because of that.
Financial Peace University is a great process to go through. They teach you how to make a budget. Matter of fact, we have mentors in this group. They've actually mentored our 3 oldest kids. Our 3 oldest kids have all gone through Financial Peace University. They all are light years from where we were. They have budgets. They have no credit card debt. I can't even begin to tell you the amount of credit card debt I had at their age. They are so much farther ahead. They're already saving for retirement. I didn't start saving for retirement until I was 40 years of age. I've made so many mistakes. It's so good. And if you live out of town, you're watching from around the world somewhere, you can, Dave Ramsey, Financial Peace University, you can take it online. It's a phenomenal class. I would encourage you to go through it. It'll help you build a budget and be a good steward. All right. So let me tell you the second way that we can manage God's money meticulously. I'm going to go through this really, really quick. Let me end this way. The second way, the second habit we have to build on is honor God first. Honor Him first. Let me give you a wise framework. I share this every year that I talk about finances. I want you to think about 10, 10, 80. All right? These are percentages. Now, I'm going to change it a little bit this year. This year, I'm going to go 10, 10, 70, 10. All right? But let me just share it this way. 10%. The first 10% of all God gives you, all that you earn because God gave you the strength to earn it, 10%, my family, our budget, we give it away. We bring it to the church, we bless God's kingdom, we make a difference in people's life. 10%, you give it away. This is a wise way to build a budget. The next 10% is you save it. You begin to save for retirement. You invest it. You save it. 70%, you build your budget around that. Gas, rent, clothing, food. You build your budget around. I'm telling you, if you could start this right out of high school, when you get your very first job, if you start doing this, you will be so grateful. You'll come back someday and say, PD, you are my favorite pastor in the entire world. If you'll just do this. And then this last 10%, this is something new. I've been watching my kids do this. I thought it was really wise. Enjoy. This is just for you to enjoy. Go do some splurge, do stuff. Enjoy it. But you may want to start with 10, 10, 80. 10%, I'm giving. 10%, I'm saving. 80%, I'm going to build my budget on that. It's one of the wisest things that you can do. But let me be honest. It all hinges, I believe, on the first 10%. It's the wisest thing we can do. Let me share this with you. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 9. Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruits of all your produce. Then your barns will be filled with plenty and your vats will be bursting with wine. What's he saying? If you put God first, if you give back to him first, my conviction biblically, it's my conviction. You get your own conviction on this, study God's word. I think that 10% really matters. I think it's called a tithe. I think it matters. I think it's an act of trust. It's the very first priority of my life. And I've been doing this since I was 11 years old with my very first paper route. And actually, I don't call it giving. I call it returning. Because you really can't give God anything. It's already his. I return the first 10% back to him. And here's what you also need to know. In my life, that percentage never goes down. 10% for me is the floor, not the ceiling of my giving. It's continuing to go up throughout my lifetime. I won't get into that. That's between me and God. But 10% is the floor, not the ceiling. This makes a massive difference. And to be honest, this year, life's a little tight. My daughter Abigail's getting married, so I'm printing money in the backyard. Weddings are incredibly expensive, but here's what you got to know. Big wedding, lots of money going out for my family. We have a budget for it. We sat down and made a budget for it. I will not touch the 10% or whatever percent Nicole and I give. I'm not going to tell you what that is, above the 10%. I will not touch that to give my daughter a wedding. That I've already returned to the Lord. That does not pay for a wedding. So what did I do? Nicole and I looked at our budget. We figured out how we were going to do this. Going into a whole bunch of debt was not an option for us. We were not going to do that. So what we decided was we're not going on vacation. That's right. We made a decision actually for the last 3 years to not take a big family vacation. We always went over to Oceanside and had a great time. And we as a family made the decision. Luke had a wedding a couple years ago and Abby's getting married this year. And we're just not doing that. We are going to cut that out of our budget so that we can do some other things, but we are not going to touch the tithe. We're not going to touch what we're going to return to the Lord. See, I do this. I give this away first. I return this to the Lord first. You know why? Because I have a greedy heart. Yeah, I'm just going to be honest with you. I do. I like nice stuff. And being a returner protects me from greed. Last week we talked about gratitude, but returning protects me from greed. And the reason I like nice stuff is because I didn't grow up with a lot. We couldn't afford name brand clothing when I was growing up. I wanted to shop at the mall and mom said, no, we shop at Mervyn's. Okay, that's where you go because there's always low prices at Mervyn's. There's always a sale. That's why they're out of business today, probably. But I remember when I was about 17 years of age, I desperately wanted a polo shirt. Polo was the brand, and I wanted one, wanted a polo shirt, with a little horsey on it. I thought it was so cool. And here's what my mom did. My mom went to Mervyn's. She bought me 3 knit shirts, okay, polo style shirts, and she bought a horsey pin. And she said, son, what you're going to do is I got you 3 shirts, and you can just put a horsey pin on your shirts every single day. And I looked at my mom and I said, I will be killed at school if I show up with a Mervyn shirt with a horsey pin on it, Mom. But that was my mom. And that's the way we grew up. We just didn't have a lot of extra. So I kind of struggle with wanting nice things a little bit in my life. Now, how a budget works and honoring God first, this is how it helps you make financial decisions. Now watch this. Having a plan all right? A meticulous plan, a budget, and honoring God first. That helps me make decisions. Do I go on that vacation? Do I get that new car with the seats that have heaters in them? Because the Lord knows in Arizona, you have to have car seats that heat up. Or do I redo that back patio? Here's the question I ask. Have I returned the percentage that I have committed to the Lord? First, have I saved? Does it now fit into my budget, that purchase, that payment? If it fits in the 80% that's left over, enjoy. Go for it. You're at dinner. Do I buy a filet? Do I buy the filet? Well, does it fit your plan? Have you already returned to the Lord? If yes, you've done that and you can afford it in your budget, get the filet. If you can't, you're going to eat chicken strips, because I've eaten a lot of chicken strips in my life, right? Do I get 2 bottles of wine with the meal, with the filet? Well, if it's just you and your spouse, no, you don't get 2 bottles of wine. What's wrong with you? That's way too much alcohol, all right? And if you don't drink alcohol like me, then you don't get it at all, okay? But if it fits your plan and you're with a group of people and you can do it and you've already returned to the Lord, have a glass of wine. Enjoy that, okay? That's just how life works. And your budget and your returning will help you do that. Now, it is important, if we want to live a healthy life, that we don't lie to ourselves. The truth matters. Living in the truth leads to a healthy life. And if you're running towards a brick wall and you tell yourself there's no wall, in just a moment, you're going to hit the wall. And then what many of us will do is we'll curse the wall rather than blaming ourselves for not being honest that there was a wall coming our way. If you have no budget and you keep spending money that you don't have on things that you can't afford and you don't need, and you refuse to honor God first, you're going to hit a financial wall. God has given you everything you need for your enjoyment. All he's asking you to do is honor him first and have a plan for what he's blessed you with. Because let me promise you something, there is absolutely no joy at all in hitting a financial wall. Take it from somebody who knows. I've been there. Lastly, our budget reveals where we put our trust. I know we joke a lot about our money tells us in God we trust, but we trust this a lot of times to meet our needs. I told you in the beginning of this message about my father breaking his hip and how I've been leaning in. My big responsibility is I'm in charge of all my dad's finances now. So I know exactly everything that he has coming in. And let me just tell you something about my mom and dad. They had a plan. They were the type of people that made the most of what they were given. They made a massive difference in this world, incredibly generous people. My dad now lives on about 20% of what he did at the peak of his earning years with my mom, 20%. And here's what my dad says to me at the beginning of every month. I'm on the phone with him or in his house. He'll say, hey, son, make sure you write out that check for the church and make sure you set that money aside for Project 42 to reach unreached people groups in the Middle East. Every single month. I know my father's income. I know how much money he has and I know how little money he has at this stage of life. And my father still has a plan. And he's still returning to God first and honoring him. And let me just tell you something. If my father can do that, 98% of the people I'm talking to today have no excuse, because I know how little his income is. My father is leaving me a legacy of trusting God with the money that God has given to him. I want that for your life. I don't want something from you. If your heart's blessed, God's provided for our needs, and he will always provide for our needs, whether you do what we're talking about today or not. He will still provide for us. This is about you getting free. This is about you finding that fulfillment. This is about you honoring God and taking him at his word. Amen? Now, we never end a service without giving you the opportunity to make the most important decision of your life, and that's to say yes to Jesus. So if that's you today and you for the first time in your life are saying, Jesus, I need you. I'm done trying to do life in my own strength. I need your leadership in my life. Or maybe there's some of you and it's not a first-time decision. It's more of a rededication of your life to Jesus. If that's you today and you're ready to make that decision to follow Jesus for the first time, or today you want to rededicate your life to him, it's the most important thing you'll ever do. Pray this with me in your heart, in your own words. Just say this. Lord Jesus, in this moment, I commit my life to you. I trust you with my life. Jesus, forgive me of my sin. You know what it is, and I know what it is. Thank you for your forgiveness. Jesus, fill me with your Spirit. Fill me with your love and your joy and your peace. Fill me up, Lord. In Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen. I pray you have a strong week. Can't wait to see you next weekend as we end this series, Money Trust.
So I hope today was some practical steps that you go, I feel like I can have some hope. I can walk away with something tangible. And man, I know that I need that sometimes. It's great to go to a sermon or a service and go like, man, that was inspiring and motivating and God was there. And there's also some times that, man, I just need some steps to get me from here to there. So hopefully, if you've been stuck, that's a place where you are getting that today. Maybe it's that 10-10-10-70 or the 10-10-80. And that's something, the 10-10-80, I've actually been working on with my daughter. She's 10 years old, but she wants to go to the dollar store. She's like, I've got some money. She did some chores, or someone gave her some money. She's like, I've got money to buy something. I'm like, do you? Well, how much does it cost? And she goes, oh, it costs this much. I go, well, how much do you have? What have you given? Have you saved? You know, you got $10. Did you give one? Did you save one? And she can get a little frustrated because she's going, you know, I wanted that thing. And I think we can too, right? We want that thing and we can't afford it. We can't get it. But that's the place where we just need to grow and we need to go, put on our big boy, big girl pants and go, God, I want to be faithful with the things you've given me. Hey, if you accepted Christ today, whether it was for the first time or you rededicated your life to him, man, that's amazing. We'd love to walk with you on that journey, give you some next steps. No one should walk alone. Go to puric.org, handraised/handraised, and go ahead and fill out that form there so we can walk with you on that new journey. I want to give you a little behind the scenes as we do a little walk and talk around here in the studio. So you saw Pastor Dan hanging out on this set just a minute ago in the video. It was a little bit earlier for us. But this desk here, I actually got this desk at the thrift store. I paid $30 for it, trying to be wise with God's money, right? And you can see it's a lane. You know, those of you who know furniture, no lane's a super nice, but look at that cool fluting on the sides. This thing weighs about 1 billion pounds. We had to put sliders on the bottom so that our team could move it around the studio without getting a hernia and killing ourselves. But here's the thing, is I got this from the thrift store, so we cleaned it out, and we were pulling out all the drawers and cleaning everything out. There was stuff, the thrift store taking the things out of the drawers, but behind there, they'd gotten things maybe over time, over years, that had gotten kind of stuffed back there and fallen back there. And a lot of it was random bills and things from the person who had this. And it kind of appeared as we looked through it, well, maybe somebody who's older, maybe in their 80s. But there's a couple fun things I'll share with you that were in there. Here's one. Those KitchenAid mixers. KitchenAid's been around for forever. Well, before it was KitchenAid, it was Hobart. Those of you that are like big fans of this. So here's a receipt for maintenance of one of the original Hobarts from way back in the 1970s when this receipt was. So who knows how old that one was when they actually bought it. That's kind of cool. This one was fun. Little advertising. Here we go. Look at that high tech. You know, if you had that in this era, you were a rock star. Look at that. Pay only $159. Is that all? Okay, you think about inflation, I don't know how much that is today. Probably a lot. Melamine plates, look at those colors, the orange, the yellows, the greens. What happened to those colors? Nowadays, everything's like tan and gray. We need to bring back some colors. Anyways, I digress. Here's one of the things that caught my eye though, as we were going through the stuff and cleaning it out and tossing it. This guy's name was Clifford that had owned this desk. And Clifford, I could see he was on a fixed income based on something he'd written down. And then he wrote down below that donations. And here's what he started writing down below that is, he gave to the Immaculate Heart of Mercy, the St. Clements, the St. Joseph's, Mary Knoll Fathers. He gave to the Comprehensive Cancer Center, the United Way, Alzheimer's Research, the Monona Fire Department, Kiwanis, Leukemia Society, ASU Foundation, Big Brothers Big Sisters. He gave, some of them were smaller amounts and some were big amounts, but in all these, there's more I didn't list, was 20 things that he gave to on a fixed income. And my wife and I, we give, and we give our tithe and we try and be also generous, but man, it was kind of convicting for me. Like, this guy's found 20 places to pour into that he goes, there are needs in these places and they need more than I do. And I kind of challenged me. I go, God, maybe I need to do some more prayer and going, maybe not 20 places, but how many places are you giving to? Or if you're even giving at all, again, just acknowledging, hey, this money isn't mine. Who could use it more? Man, don't we all love to receive something, right? We go, wow, that's great, you gave this to me, but like, to be on the giving end, that really is amazing to be able to give and pour into people's lives and know that you're making a difference. And so my encouragement is this: just make sure that you're pouring out, that you're giving in the areas that God's calling to you. As you get all the other stuff squared away, you're giving, you're saving, and then making good choices with your finances. I know it's hard. Man, there's so many things that hit us every day. There's whole psychologies that are built around how to make us buy stuff. But man, let's not fall into that trap. There's something I just want to share with you is one of the reasons why I'm here at Pure Heart today. I've been on staff here since 2014, but before that, I was coming, my wife and I would come and start attending. One of those weeks was a financial series. And that financial series, the pastor, Pastor Dan, got up on stage and he started sharing. He goes, hey, we've been trying to get out of debt, my wife and I, and we've been sharing with you our debt plan and when we were going to be out of debt by. And this last weekend, there's a sale, 4th of July sale or something, that we saw this couch set and we needed it. We just thought we got to have that. Ours is so old, and we purchased it. And we purchased it on credit, and that actually set us back on our plan for getting out of debt. And we just want to be honest with you about where we're at now and where that's now going to put us of when our debt's going to be paid off. I was really kind of shocked. I've never been a part of a church. I grew up in church. I've never been a part of a church that a pastor, how much less someone in leadership, was really that honest and transparent with something like that. That's pretty vulnerable. That's kind of a little bit like, ooh, and yet he did it. And the reason why was to help people grow and move ahead and not stay stuck. And where are you at today? Is there a part of you that doesn't want to go attend a financial peace university or doesn't want to get a mentor or a financial person in your life because you go, but what are they going to say when they see how my finances really are? What are they going to ask me to do? What are they going to? Here's the thing, that's just stuff that's pride in our life. So my encouragement is take the step. Don't stay stuck. Move ahead, even if it's just the first step of, hey, 118, if that's your first step, or if it's going and getting plugged in or getting healthy mentor or people in your life, because God calls you to take care of your finances because he gave it to you. And then you can also go and give and be generous, and you are the one who receives the blessing. We as a church, we really try and be a generous church. That's one of our goals, is to make a difference in the community, in the nation, in the world. And so we constantly are trying to give and pour out. And one of the ways we saw that there was a need is our local schools. And we said, there's a lot of times that people are pulling back from the public schools. And that's the time we realize there's a lot of needs and loving people and caring people there. And so let's lean in. And so we started a thing called School Connect, where we're going to go and care and love these local schools. And we want other churches now to come alongside. And we want businesses to come alongside. And we want nonprofits to join together so we can be stronger together. In fact, we're going to take our name, Pure Heart, off of School Connect. It's going to be its own entity, even though we had this vision, because man, it's bigger than our own thing. We want to be generous with this. Even though we invested so much into it, it's more important about where it can go if it doesn't have one church's name on it. Check this out.
Recently, we had our annual School Connect Summit. At a time where school closures, funding challenges, and teacher shortages are dominating the conversations around Arizona education, hundreds of educators, businesses, community and faith-based organizations came to the table, literally, to brainstorm solutions and cultivate partnerships that can better support our local school communities. Now, this year, we gathered at Grand Canyon University and talked about how we can do a better job caring for and loving our schools. We believe that every person has a unique genius to offer the world, and by connecting these leaders, we can create even more positive changes in education and community development. Now, here at Pure Heart, we asked the question, if we were gone tomorrow, would our community miss us? Through the School Connect Summit, we're able to answer yes to that question, along with 3 other big ones these students ask. Do you care about me? Can I trust you? And will you invest in and through schools? Now, Pure Heart family, thank you so much for caring about our community. Through God's faithfulness, we're able to build trust with our local schools and invest in the next generation. Thank you for your generosity.
Man, I love School Connect. I love the mission and vision of hey, let's bring together the principals, the teachers, community leaders, business people, to help empower these kids to give financially, whatever it is, set them up for success, the next generation. I think that's something everybody can get behind of we want the next generation to succeed. And that's why I love what's going on with School Connect. Every single week we talk about things that Pure Heart's doing. things that God's called us to. And the reason we do that is because, one, we're excited about it. We go, God, you've given us resources, you've given us people, and you've given us vision. And we believe you've called us to this thing and that thing, whether it's here locally or nationally or globally. And we want to steward that well. And so, man, if you go today, the things that Pure Heart's sharing, I want to be a part of that also. And if you want to give into that mission of Pure Heart, you can do that at pureheart.org/give, or do it in the Pure Heart app. And if you don't give here, give somewhere. God loves a cheerful giver. Don't be the one that's like hanging on to it, like has to get pulled out of your hands. Like, no, God's going to take care of you. We're doing the right things. We're budgeting. We're making good choices. We're saving. And then we're also making sure, first off, our giving is going where it's supposed to go. You know, I really hope that today it lifted your heart, lifted your spirit. I know these can be tough topics. I know they can be hard to deal with, but I know it's going to set us free. So if you didn't get last week, make sure you go back and watch it. We got one more week of this series. This is an important area. We need to do this right. It's a thing that affects our hearts so much. It's connected to so many things in our life. Let's get it right on some godly and biblical principles. You know, if this message was an encouragement to you today, go ahead and drop a comment below. If you want to say like, hey, I'm doing the 10-10-10-70 or the 10-10-80, or man, here's something God's calling me to give up so I can be more generous, or here's the step I'm going to start taking to getting out of some debt or getting my finances out of control. We'd love that if you share that down below so we can just be praying for you. Also, if you just would like the video or share it, if you're generous enough to do that, because here's the thing, it gets in front of more people's eyes and allows more people to hear the gospel and hopefully be set free. We love you guys. We're so excited for the next week of this series, and we'll see you next week.